Hey, my friends, better late than never. Sorry, bit of a bit of a normal chaotic morning for me. Here we are. I'm trying to get my computer started and all the rest of it at the same time. But it's Chat with Matt. It is the 20th of January 2021 just. So here we are. Here we are to shoot the breeze for the next half an hour. Generally these go for 40 minutes, let's be honest. But yeah, the intention is half an hour to answer some questions and talk to you guys about whatever you might feel would benefit you, stimulate some conversation. The intention is more than to deliver information for your mind, it's to create a space where transformation happens for your energy field, for your being. So that's important to remember, that when I'm talking, not so much talking in riddles, but when we're chopping around with conversation and stuff, it's not so important that you understand it all, but that you just sort of sink into the energy and allow the energy to work for you. Allow yourself to be stimulated potentially in or even triggered into what needs to release from your field, or what little nugget of gold really sinks in and goes, right? Not a complete concept of understanding, now I understand the concept of time and relativity. That's not so important to how you live your day, but what's important is that you can embrace your day in a more empowered way and get through it happy, right? Happy and joyful and an expansive being of light. That's what you're here to be your light, and not to shut yourself down and protect yourself and stay small and and thinking, the mind thinking, I just need to understand all this, then I'll be able to relax. No, you need to be able to relax before you can understand it, right? You need to choose to relax before you can understand the world. The understanding, the deep knowing arises as we relax into the experience of this world, not the other way around. A lot of people think that they need to somehow learn all of the stuff and then they can deeply relax into life. Hey, Sister Jane. Hey, Sister Michelle. And hey, whoever else is here whose name didn't scroll up my screen. I am going to get my thing ready. I also need to drink something this morning because I haven't done that yet. Get some minerals going. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to find the Bright Light Beings group, Matthew, because I'm pretty sure, if I can remember correctly from last night, there was some comments written in when I popped a little photo on announcing this was going to happen. I don't think I've refreshed Facebook on this computer. I put the photo on with the two baby tui, which are little native songbirds, nectar eaters, on my head. Jumpy and Squawky. That's Jumpy on my head and Squawky on my shoulder. No, maybe it's Squawky on my head. Can't remember. It actually does look like it was probably Squawky on my head, which was the male, slightly bigger and much noisier. Hence the name Squawky. They're looking pretty rough there. But anyway. Anywho's, so yeah, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, any topics that you'd like me to discuss, any reaction to what I'm saying, or want some clarification, or want me to go further on something, or want a completely different topic altogether, please feel free to write in. I'll do my best to catch it as it scrolls up the screen. If I don't catch it there, I'm going to flick it back and have a look at it later. Not later, but during this live stream when I go back there. Anyway. Sister Sam wrote, love the picture. The fear of flight. How many of us have had to step past that? Rhetorical question, really, but the picture made me think. Yeah, so, I don't think birds have a fear of flight, potentially. Having read quite a few of them, they really embrace flight with excitement and joy. There's always there's the analogy of getting pushed out of the nest. Maybe, but in the way that we've looked after birds and stuff, there's been no pushing out of the nest, right? They just get the impulse to fly, and then the joy at which they fly at first is awesome, right? It's like watching a toddler to walk. How many toddlers fear walking? They don't, right? They don't fear walking. It's natural to them. For birds, flying is natural to them. And in some ways, us soaring as a soul being is natural to us, but we've almost been indoctrinated, out of our naturalness. I think that's very, very true. I think we've lost a lot of our instinctive, natural abilities to face life in a less fearful way, right? In a more natural way, in a more empowered way, in a more confident way. I think a lot of the fears that currently afflict humanity, have been intentionally programmed in over the last few thousand years. I think the dark agenda, the shadow masculine authoritarian power that's been running this planet for the last 5,000 years has really done a great job in afflicting or inflicting fear into the populace. So fear is the real pandemic, right? We look at this freaking COVID experience right now, and on every level, fear is intensifying the experience, right? Let's try and get rid of that noise on my computer. Fear is intensifying. It's like a huge psyop. It's a huge brainwashing thing. And I'm not saying that there's no virus. I'm not saying that the whole thing is made up. But every step of the way, fear is being used to make it much worse, to make it much, much worse. And many people who get very, very sick have had their immune system lowered significantly over the last year now with repetitive fear-based information, and all of the measures that they've taken to try and avoid what they're being told they should be fearful of. Right? You're told that you should be fearful of this stuff, and so I think that's happened. Right? And this is no mistake that we're having this experience as a global collective right now, because we are basically in the process of bringing to the surface what has been limiting us for thousands of years, right? It's coming up to be cleared right now. So the whole C-19 experience is basically a clearing response to a deeper issue. And so much of our fear of flying, metaphorically flying, right, is been programmed into us for so long in a very calculated way. Jane wrote, life has been so calculated, enjoying the process of freedom from this. Yeah, awesome. It has been, right? We've been told ever since the get-go what our program is, right? We're to go to school, we're to try our hardest, we're to get good grades, we're to go to further training, we're to get a job, we're to try real hard to make ourselves successful at that, we're to find a partner, we're to try real hard to make that partnership successful, long-lasting relationship that fits certain criteria, and we're to have children and it's to look a certain way, and we're to indoctrinate them the same way that we were indoctrinated so that we are successful parents, right? There's this pre-programming that goes on, and most people are just completely unaware of this, because the people who are programming us are doing it from love now, right? Who are perpetuating it, but our parents bring us up in wanting the best for us, and so they program us into what they believe the program is for us to be successful, because that's what they believe, because that's how they were programmed by their parents. All right, and the people pulling the strings have just slowly been adjusting the program to keep us all entangled in a web of trying hard to get it rightness. That keeps us all limited from really living our most expansive self, from quote unquote flying as the soul that we're here to be. Well, we are here, the soul that we're here to be an expression of, right? Because in my opinion, that's our purpose, to be an expression of our divinity, to be an expansive expression of the light that we be. And that is hard. It's been so hard to achieve because we've been battling against so many belief systems and limitations and expectations from the external and those who love us around us to stay within the confines of what is appropriate based on how we've been trained. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Sister Sam. Sister Christina asked, and that's the most perfect picture. And what about, why do we fear change? As children, we embrace it, but why do adults learn to fear it? Because we've been trained to believe that we're supposed to be able to predict the world in order to succeed. Our little egos have cottoned on to this idea, has been, indoctrinated as we go through schooling. We've been indoctrinated into the idea that knowledge, right, understanding is our ticket to success, and success is our ticket to happiness. Hey, Sister Stephanie. So the problem with change is we don't understand what we're changing into. We can't accurately predict if it's going to be right or wrong. So the better the devil we know is very, very apt to an immature ego that wants to be able to predict everything in order to stay safe and in order to succeed. So we're much more likely to avoid change because of the uncertainty of it and the unsafetyness, if that's a phrase, that it evokes for our ego. So so it's very, very normal that as we mature as personalities, that change gets less and less inviting, and as people age, they particularly get set in their ways, right? Most people, of course, that's whatever we call it when we put every person in a lump. Generalization. What's that? It's a generalization, of course, but we see it time and time again that the older people get, the less likely they are to embrace change, because the more calcified, I'll use that word, their ego becomes in the safety of the predictableness of the routine and the known. Something they know very well, even if it's not particularly joyful or even comfortable, it's kind of more attractive than taking the risk and going into something new. It's a very, in some ways, it's a very sad trait of humanity that's the way our egos are going. But in many ways, society has just reinforced that that's appropriate. And it doesn't do anything to address that. In fact, does a lot of things to try to reinforce that that's okay, that as we get older we shouldn't want change and we should be just satisfied with what we've got, and that we should just settle into a slow process of degeneration, right? That we should just expect that and be happy with that, or at least accepting of that degeneration, when in my opinion it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that degeneration physically, mentally, emotionally, or status wise, right? This whole robbing our elder generation of their status is just appalling in my opinion, especially as I've got a 5 in front of my number now. I'm on the I'm on the more senior camp, right, on the planet. So it's something that I'm definitely looking to address in my belief systems and in my work, and in my mission, my envisaging of where society's going. It's not in the continuation of the degeneration or the degradation of the status of people once they've passed quote unquote working age, right, retirement, and then basically put on the scrap heap because they're no longer producing and consuming in a capitalist society. The high level autocrat technocrats, rulers, dark rulers of this planet, profit from, right? They just don't profit from older people nearly as much, except for selling them drugs. So they're very happy for them to be programmed into the idea that they're just on the degeneration side. And so the game for society is just to slowly remove all of their assets in medical expenses before they pass away. That's the game they play, right? It's atrocious. We're holding space for all of that to change. Anywho's, feel free to add a comment in as we go, my friends, or to ask something if you have. Jill talked a lot about birds. I missed that. Sorry, it's okay. I really have a strong affinity with birds for whatever reason. Not sure why, but it's just the way it is. Yeah, I know many people in this group have a 6 in front of their age, and quite a few have a 7, and some even have an 8. So change now, please. So Deb, Miss Debbie, it's about embracing the change for ourselves, right? Because the external's not going to change before we change. So the work to be done is in being the change we want to see, and that's an ongoing process, and that's a process I embrace every day with my meditations, with my journaling, with my choices to be conscious in how I'm living the world, in how I'm seeing the world, in what beliefs I'm allowing myself to reinforce, and what beliefs I am consciously choosing to challenge and step past, right? So it's an ongoing process on multiple fronts of choosing to be my new future. Not an easy path, not a comfortable path, not a very satisfying path. Sometimes it seems a lot of the times we're butting our heads up against what we don't want rather than really enjoying what we do want. But I do believe, I know if I look back over time how much evolution has occurred for me and also for our society, even though it's looking quite tenuous right now. And of course, we have a lot of intensification this week with all of what's going on in the American political system and the potentials for what might happen. There's a lot of information getting splayed around about, good things that might happen or bad things that might happen, depending on your way of looking at it, connotations on what might potentially go down. Ultimately, none of us really know. Ultimately, my gut feeling is it could be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as straightforward as a lot of people want to believe. A lot of people want to believe that basically we're about to be saved and that society's going to be better from tomorrow onwards or from the next day onwards easily. My understanding of how energy works is we have to change before our society will change, and to think that some saviors are going to come along and either the extraterrestrials or Trump and his light workers or Space Force X or whatever is going to wipe all the baddies off the planet and then everything's going to be better. Not so sure about that. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see it happen. But at the same time, I know even if it did happen, and even if we did make inroads in that direction, there's still a hell of a lot of work to do for humanity, individually and collectively, to really embrace accepting the fact that those changes have happened and moving us out of the old patterns. But either way, if the whole internet does go down tomorrow or even in 5 minutes' time, don't panic. I'm sure everything will be fine, as it always is. Even if we're all wiped off the planet, it'll be fine, right? As souls, as beings. But I'm not predicting we all get wiped off the planet, by the way. I'm just, what's the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen to us as the being? That's the point. When you come to that perspective, then it makes it much easier to relax into life. And when you relax into life, everything gets better. That's the point, right? That's the point that I'm making. A lot of people want things to change in the external world so that they can relax into enjoying life and they can relax into being purposeful. I'm telling you, you have to relax into enjoying life and relax into being purposeful before the external world's going to change. So that's the guts in my opinion. So birds, I'm not sure why some of us have quite high affinity with birds. Jill tells a beautiful story about how they, led her to developing her particular flower essences, which are awesome. And we're waiting for Jill to, come forth with a range. I can't remember my last conversation with her, which was a couple of years ago, I believe, or at least over a year ago, around that project. But she has some awesome, unique flower essences that she collected, and the birds helped her guide her to the various different flowers and to intuit and be guided into the message behind the power of that essence. One more comment. Awesome. So Sister Michelle also wrote, I wanted to get to this one. Matt, if I heard correctly, you've said that emotions, feelings, thoughts, and memories that don't serve me are coming up to be released. As I work on releasing, I find that I'm feeling lost, losing the person who I believe I was. Someday this feeling of lostness is overwhelming. I'm pretty much alone. Kids grown up and gone on their way. Husband has passed away, lost my job due to COVID issues, live in Canada, and we're on another lockdown until February 19th. I guess what I'd like to know is, where am I trying to end up with this releasing of the old that does not serve me? Because I feel like I'm floating with no direction. Awesome question, Sister Michelle, and you are definitely not alone in that experience. So, cutting back to the question here, where am I trying to end up with this releasing? You're not trying to end up anywhere. There's no trying going on, Michelle, and we're not going to direct this with our mind, because the truth is we don't know. You are choosing to embrace the process of allowing the releases to occur and allowing yourself to be cut freedom from your old persona, so that the new can arrive in your experience. It will arrive, it will emerge, it will burst forth like new light, new life. A new light, a new version of our light. So the point is, we don't need to know where we're going. We don't need to mentally orchestrate our transformation. All we need to do as the personality is relax into accepting it, to allow ourselves to feel overwhelmed and to allow ourselves to feel lost as the old keeps falling away, before we can see the new emerging. Because the truth is, we have to let go of a lot of the old before we can align vibrationally with the new. So we can't see the new until we've let go of the old. So it's very hard to let go of something when you can't see the new thing coming, right? So that's the point. That's the point. So I know it's difficult and it's concerning for the ego to be in this state where we seem very lost, where the new heart-based society and our new heart-based way of operating in the world is not really online yet, and yet the old mental way of structures and holding ourselves in place, and the status and the roles and the labels that have kept us comfortable in a structure that we believe is leading to our success, although we've come to realize that success that the structure was leading to was not satisfying, right? To climb the ladder did not actually lead to the happiness that we truly desired, the sole purpose that we really desired. So the point is we have to let go. We have to be willing to float free. And we have to be willing to be a little bit overwhelmed. Is that I don't know if that works, but to allow ourselves to be overwhelmed in the egoic experience of that freedom, right? That freedom with lack of structure is overwhelming. It's scary, right? Because we've relied so long on the structure to provide us with certainty. It's an illusion of certainty, because the world never has been certain, nor has our life. We've never really been certain. Our finances haven't really been certain. All sorts of things have happened to other people. They've had various, medical misadventures, accidents, financial things just happen, houses burn down, accidents, all sorts of what we'd call tragedies happen to people, right? There's no certainty in the structure yet, but we've been trained to believe that there is. And for the majority of people, there's a certain level of security in that. But it's an incredible limitation. So it's being stripped away now. It's been stripped away now. It's stripped away now. Those of us who are going first, like yourself, Michelle, don't have a lot of people around you who can relate to the experience you're going through. Yeah, they're going through it to some degree, but you have gone into it with more, what's the right word? Intention, I guess. More intention and more consciousness. You are consciously allowing yourself to go deeper into this lost feeling. You're not clinging so much to the old world. It's obvious to you that it's being stripped away. And so you've relaxed to a point into this space. And now, of course, the ego is sort of almost screaming, but what now? Where am I trying to go? How is this going to end? We don't know how it's going to end. It's exciting and it's scary at the same time. So there is no direction right now. The direction is both inward and outward. We're both expanding and we are deepening in our awareness of that expansion. So that's the direction we're going. We're not so much going north or going east or going towards this or right. We don't have a roadmap right now because the destination is unclear. So we don't know how to get there. So there's no particular recipe of what to do. There's no particular mandate, rules around what we should do to be a good, right, spiritual person, a successful person in this current energy. The guidance I keep getting is to relax, right? It's not to try too hard now. Matt's not trying too hard now with business. I'm building a friggin' deck. I'm doing stuff. I'm doing manual work because it's much more nurturing to me at this time. Yeah, I still show up and do these things. These are easy, right? I still run sessions, but I'm not particularly building a new program right now because I don't have that direction as to what I should be building a program around. I'm showing up with a very similar message week on, week out. I'm working with clients pretty much with a similar message and similar facilitation around just helping people move through the intensity of the experience of releasing what's not serving them right now, without we do talk a lot about holding the vision of what you desire to be, but that vision is not necessarily a concrete visual of the externalities of the situation that you want in the world, because we just don't know. And if we get too caught up in those visuals, we could very much limit what we can have. So the aligning with what we're choosing is much more energetic, right? Aligning with the vibration of happiness, aligning with the vibration of expansive or empowered freedom, real authentic confidence, just to be yourself and to be natural in yourself and comfortable in yourself and able to show up as yourself and to feel purposeful in that and to feel accomplished on this world, to not feel, not good enough, to not feel, abandoned or unappreciated, the things that many of us have carried for a long, long time, right? Donna wrote in, I'm going to jump up here and try and read it. Donna wrote in, I don't feel lost, I feel incredibly peace-filled, just breathing through the fear of the ego's dissolution on one level, mini egoic deaths. But new dimension is different, yes, nothing to fear, lots going on in this direction right now, either voluntarily, consciously, or unconsciousness. Fear either the voluntary consciously or in unconsciousness, fear. All is well. Yeah. So exactly, Donna. So if we have a level of confidence in something, a narrative or a support system, then it's much more easy for us to relax through this experience. And to maintain a level of peace despite what is coming up to release, right? Being aware of what's coming up to release, the various layers of fear, the various layers of doubt, the various layers of discomfort, physically, mentally, emotionally, are rising to the surface as we consciously keep choosing to relax into it, right? That's the kicker, right? That's the important part, because if we contract around it, wanting to know why, wanting to try too hard to understand it or to even succeed in the releasing process. That's what a lot of people are struggling with right now. How do I know I'm releasing this effectively? You don't, and you don't need to. You have to trust. You have to be willing to trust, right? Because in needing to know that you're doing it right, you basically limit your ability to do it effectively, right? That's it. The way to allow release to occur effectively is to relax out of needing to make sure that it's working, to relax out of needing to make sure that you're doing it correctly, to want to measure it, to want to understand when it's going to be finished. But when am I going to be over? When am I going to be complete? There will be no completion. There is no completion. Not on any level is there completion, right? A lot of people want to think that their happiness is on the other side of completion, and it's just not the case, right? I talk, when you work with the masters and stuff, one of the things that comes through is, we call them masters, but they're not complete yet. They haven't mastered it. They're still mastering it. It's still an evolutionary process, and they're still growing with each and every experience they have, because God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, is continually expanding. There's no completion, right? There's no end to the process. Everything won't be better when something happens. So that's the process, my friends. It's to relax out of this idea that happiness will be when this is all sorted itself out, right? Or, whatever your narrative is of when it's going to be sorted out. People can go in multiple directions about what their completion belief is around, but ultimately, none of it's going to happen to a point that feels satisfying. None of it. Right, in my opinion, some people are waiting for the vaccine to come out, then they think everything will go back to normal. No, it won't, right? If we go down that timeline, it won't all go back to normal. It won't be satisfying. It'll be an ongoing shit fight forever. A lot of people want to think that once, the light workers win and the da-da-da-da and the this is removed and that's removed and Jasara or Nasara is implemented, then everything will be okay. No, it won't. No, it won't. Right? Life will continue. The expansion will continue. There will be many, many challenges to overcome and much stuff coming up from within us continually throughout all processes. Darkness will not just be eradicated off this planet. It can't be. You're just like the yin and the yang, right? Even in the white part of the tadpole, there is a black circle. Darkness will always be part of our experience here. This world is a polarity experience. It's supposed to be, right? Darkness has to exist here to allow ourselves to know what light is. So to think that darkness can be eradicated is delusionary, right? It is delusional. So we have to allow ourselves to understand that the only way that darkness adversely influences us is when we allow it to, right? And so part of the process is not to think that some saviors are going to come in and take the darkness away. It's to realize that we don't need to fear the darkness, and that as beings of light, we just need to pull the curtains back on ourselves, and darkness is held at bay, right? Darkness does not approach a light bulb. It doesn't. The only way the darkness can come close to light bulb is the light bulb is covered over with something. We call that covering fear, right? We close ourselves up, we close our heart, we close ourselves down because we don't want to be seen. And then all of a sudden darkness is all around us and we're having an experience in darkness. As we choose to remove our coverings, as we choose to stand up as ourselves, then darkness will have boundaries, not hard friggin' mental boundaries of rules, but limitations in how much influence that darkness can inflict on us, right? How much influence that darkness will have on our lives. That's the process. That's the process. It's just discovering ourselves. It's to get out of all these fucking narratives that the external world is the one that's either is causing our problems and something's going to happen to save us from those problems. It's not the truth. The external world is an absolutely, completely perfect mirror of what's going on for each and every one of us internally. That's the external world. So whatever experience you're having of the external world is your medicine, right? It is the expression of what you are releasing, what you are moving through, what you are emerging from, right? And your job is to keep choosing to do the work internally so that the external world starts changing. Jill wrote in, feels like I'm having a twin life right now. I have neighbors and many friends who have total alien life views to mine. I find myself not able to show my real self with them, so I act a role. I know it's not constructive to open others' eyes for the last year has been exhausting. I rely on Zoom and Facebook contacts and friends to keep me sane by allowing me to speak my truth. I am trying to hold my light, but exactly, Jill, and that's very, very common and very, very sensible in many ways, right? We're not here to try and awaken people, and we're not here to try and shock them with our version of what's going on, because it's just going to alienate them further from us and make our life even more uncomfortable. Our role is to do whatever's required to nurture and nourish ourselves so that we keep being the light, and slowly but surely our light, our eminence, our energetic influence will help prepare them for the transformation that's ongoing on this planet, right? That's the best way, in my opinion, to just be it, to be happy in the world. You don't need to shock them. You don't need to counter their fear-based stuff. Yeah, sure, we hold our boundaries and don't allow them to indoctrinate us into it. We don't necessarily sacrifice ourselves to keep them happy, but we don't go out of our way to try and prove ourselves right and them wrong, because that is not going to help them and it's not going to help you. So the more that we can just do our best to stay sane in a world that is incredibly polarized right now, and not let it push us into fight, because fight just lowers our vibration. When we start pushing back against the world, saying that's wrong, that needs to change, we need to fix that, we need to wake everyone up to this, it lowers our vibration. It lowers our vibration. Yeah, it's important to have our eyes wide open. It's important to see what we perceive, but not to get into fight against it, but to rather expand out of it. To hold a strong intention that we are going to act in a way that diminishes the power of that particular influence on this planet, right? So if we're not happy with the way that, Amazon has taken over the commerce on the planet, and many small businesses, and all of these the rich tapestry of how business was done on this planet is falling away. If we're not happy with that, it's no point just tweeting all day on friggin' whatever about how bad Amazon is. Just start spending your money in an appropriate way, right? And start talking up to your friends about how good it is to spend your money in an alternate way, right? Not necessarily highlighting what's all wrong with Amazon, but highlighting what's right with the other way of doing it. That's just an example. As an example. Same with health, right? It's no good just bashing down what's wrong with our health system. What's much more serviceful is to keep lifting what's right with the alternates. What's right with the alternate ways of doing it, right? Homeopathic prophylaxis, right, as a way of increasing immunity to various infectious viruses and stuff, right? When you start talking about how well that's worked for you and your children and all the rest of it, without having to bash down the vaccines, you have much better effect than just coming in with the basher out saying how wrong the vaccines are. They're full of mercury, they're this, they're that, right? You just get labelled as an anti-vaxxer and put in that box. Right, but when you speak passionately about the alternatives without speaking any negativity about the current system, you actually have much more influence, right? And this is what we're talking about, consistently talking about, focusing on what you desire, focusing on what you are aligning with, focusing on where you are going and speaking that into reality rather than focusing on what you don't like and trying to bash that down or trying to fight that or trying to fix that, because what you focus on, you feed. What you focus on, you feed, and what you feed will grow stronger. So many people now think they're doing a great job in changing the world by speaking poorly about what's wrong, right? About shouting from the rooftops all that's wrong. They're feeding it. And those that are pulling the strings love it. It's controlled opposition to them. They love it that the people are fighting with them. They love it even more when we fight amongst ourselves, but even fighting them, they win, right? Because they're taking our energy. Every fighting maneuver we make, they're scraping the energy because that vibration suits them, right? Fear, anger, guilt, shame, sadness, all of those vibrations feed the dark agenda. When you allow yourself to perpetuate those feelings of fight and frustration and anger, when you allow yourself to keep expressing that out in the world, and inciting that in others, you are actually feeding the dark agenda. And I know some people say, well, you're spiritually bypassing that. You're just speaking about love all the time. No, I don't just speak about love all the time. But I realize that love and the higher vibrations and assuming the vibration of peace from a real integral, joyful place in ourselves is what will change this world. Anyway, my friends, yeah, Jane. So hold the line. There is no wrong and there is no right. There's no wrong and right. So let go of trying to stay on the right side of the line. Jane wrote in, so many people who think differently to me that I'm beginning to wonder if I've actually got it all wrong. There is no wrong. That's the point. There is no wrong. Go with what you feel and choose to be that in the world. It's not about getting it wrong or right. That's exactly what I'm saying. We don't need to label people who think differently to us as wrong and put us in the right bucket, nor do we need to allow ourselves to be them right and us wrong. When we get rid of wrong and right, when we start to dissolve the polarities, and that's what I'm saying about, because that's what fight comes from, is this idea of right and wrong. So once we allow the polarities to dissolve and realize there is no right and wrong, we can allow everyone to be, and that gives us permission to be passionate, as Sylvie just wrote, passionate about what we believe in as an influence on this planet. And that is your purpose, to be passionate about who you be. That's it. Be the bright light being. Just be it. Here, passionately, unashamedly, unapologetically, be yourself. That is your prime purpose on this planet. It's not to get it right. It's not to follow the rules. It's not to be spiritual in the eyes of what spirituality has been trained to you as, because there's no right and wrongs about what spiritually be. Spirituality is just aligned with your spirit. So be spirited in everything you do, but just be aware that you don't get egoic with trying to prove yourself right and wrong, right? To think that someone else is wrong just because they have a different opinion to you, or a different belief to you, or a different history to you, or a different skin color to you, or a different belief, anything to you, it doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't matter. Let them be who they be, and let you be who you be. Your world will be a reflection of you when you fully embrace confidently your world. That's it. Your world will be different. Stop thinking there's only one world, because each and every one of us individually has our own world. It's our own projection. The world is our own. It's individual. It's individual. I know you think that if someone else is doing something over there that it's affecting you, but it doesn't have to. I know then you bring up an argument, but yes, there's playing bullets around with a machine gun, right? When you settle into knowing your vibration on this planet, you will influence your perception of your world, and it will delight you. Delight you. You will be the light and delighted with your light, and your world will be full of light. So that's the primary message, my friends. I've better get myself sorted. I've got another one of these live streams to do in just 15 minutes over with Ian Shelley's Wisdom Sacred Circle. So I will be there in 15 minutes time if you're part of that community. It's just a 20-minute, it's supposed to be a remote session, but I think, what the hell, if I'm going to do it remotely, I may as well video myself doing it live. So, because that's the sort of person I am, authenticity, right? So you know exactly what you're getting in your remote session. Anyway, my friends, that's that. I'll be back again next week, same time, same place. I apologize if I missed a question or a comment from you in my passionate tirade. I don't know if it was a tirade, but in my expression, I do miss things from time to time. And Facebook doesn't even show me everything. That is also the truth. Sometimes I go back through the comments afterwards and go, oh my God, I definitely didn't see that come up through my screen. Anywho, my friends, much love to you all. Go well, relax. I know this could be rather interesting week as it unfolds, or it might be rather spectacularly bland as everything goes not according to what you wanted, but just happens the way the narrative has been playing out. I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but ultimately it will all benefit us, and there is no right and wrong with how this unfolds. No matter who ends up the president, no matter what sort of circus ensues or precludes or whatever that event, relax. Whatever's happening with your country and COVID and the lockdowns and all the rest of it, relax. I know lots of fear-based potentials around all of that. Don't worry, I'm fully abreast of it all. You don't need to send me messages about you should see this, you should see that, Matt, because I get plenty of that, and I do my own research on all of it. So, but the point is to get lost down that rabbit hole and start speaking a whole heap of stuff that I'm not sure any of what is true and what's not. Because my message just keeps coming back to me from Mantara is just to relax into being myself right now, relax into being the light, relax into being an expression of divinity on this planet, and forget about trying to figure all this out, right? Stay abreast of it, have an understanding of it so that I can speak to my clients and understand where they're coming to with whatever narrative they've bought into, whatever side of the equation they're on. And yes, I have clients on all sides of political and belief system spectrum from all parts of the world, and we can effectively dance with all of them because I am not entangled in any one particular doctrine, which is a good place to be. It's a happy place to be for me, because I've cut myself loose out of needing to be right, and therefore I don't need to defend my points of view because they don't need to be right. And my points of view can be very, very fluid because I'm not married to them, right? I don't need my points of view to be right for me to be right anymore, because I am the being, and my points of view don't matter to who I be. So that's it, my friends. I'm inviting you all into that understanding, into that relationship with who you are, so that it's not dependent on what you believe or what you've aligned with, externally with the belief systems and all the rest of it. Anyway, my friends, much love. This has gone way over time just for a change. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Again, same time, same place, back here in this group next week. Yeah, but until then, relax and trust everything's working for us. Bye for now.